Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to react to the wonderful news about Jennifer Melle, a nurse who was suspended. I think it was been about 2 years now, because she had an encounter with a male prisoner. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me when you were able to join. Hopefully you guys can hear me well. And she had an encounter with a male prisoner who racially abused her. She was talking to a doctor and referred to the person as Sir or Mr. So-and-so. And the guy went off because he is supposedly identifies as a woman. I think he was in the men's prison, at least. He was coming from the men's prison. And yeah, he went off on her. I believe he called her the N-word, all because she so-called misgendered him. And the hospital took his side. The hospital took the side of the male prisoner because she dared to call him Mr. And this is somebody who was convicted of harming children, a convicted PDF file, a person who I believe responded violently as well, tried to physically attack her, or he did physically attack her. And the hospital decided that he was the victim. And she ended up getting suspended from a job that she absolutely loves, that she's worked hard to achieve success in, and put through an ordeal simply because she offended this male prisoner and was left without protection from this individual and was told that she's the villain. So I'm so happy that she has now been reinstated in her position. And she has spoken about this extensively, and to find, that she's at this place now where she can go back to her job. She also obviously suffered financially as well as a result of the suspension. And she's not letting this slide. I'm happy to hear that she is going to go to a tribunal and hold this hospital trust accountable. So let's take a look. Unfortunately, I forgot my glasses, so we'll make do. A nurse in the United Kingdom has been reinstated after nearly losing her job for misgendering a transgender PDF file patient. Jennifer Melle had been a senior nurse at St. Helier Hospital in Carshalton when the PDF file was transferred from a high security prison in May of 2024. After referring to him as Mr. and in passing, the man went on a racist tirade against Melle and attempted to physically attack her. Melle was then given a written warning by her employer for misgendering the PDF file. She later spoke to media about her experience and was suspended in 2025 after the Epsom and St. Helier NHS Trust placed her under investigation for potential misconduct. Can you imagine misconduct? For referring to this person politely as Mr. But because he was offended, she was accused of misconduct. Moments ago, the trust reinstated Melle and stated that they would take no further action against her. Oh, how big of them. As a result of her ordeal, Melle is taking the trust to an employment tribunal in April over claims of harassment, direct discrimination and indirect discrimination on the basis of her Christian and gender ideology critical beliefs. Melle had been a nurse for over a decade with an unblemished record of service until the 2024 incident. So thankfully, she has been reinstated. Hello, Shannon. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining the live. She has been reinstated, and yeah, at least she's going to continue to pursue ensuring that this trust is held accountable, because she was put through an ordeal when she did absolutely nothing wrong. She didn't target this patient. She didn't attack this patient. He overheard her referring to him as Mr. And she was subjected to racial abuse. And I believe physical. He attacked her as well. So she should be the one, being compensated. She should be the one who they protected and, stood up for when they took his side. This is how ridiculous this whole thing has become. And, women shouldn't have to go through this. They shouldn't have to go to tribunals. They shouldn't have to face getting suspended, having their careers affected, simply because they call a man a man. That's what this comes down to. Calling a man, or because he supposedly has a gender identity, they punish the women. These are hardworking nurses. I was so happy to see the images of the Darlington nurses supporting Jennifer as well, and celebrating with her. Women in the UK are winning, and it's so wonderful to see. And it's because of the Supreme Court ruling, because we finally were able to define what a woman is under the law. These NHS trusts, these employers who punish women for acknowledging what they see with their eyes, they don't have a leg to stand on anymore, and they know it. So let's take a look at Jennifer celebrating the good news. I think this is the one. Yes. Just a moment, guys. No, that's the wrong one. Thanks for joining, guys. Thanks for joining the live. Haven't done a live in a while. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see that.
Wow, Peter, wow, there are great spirits over here. Jennifer, you have been exalted. How are you feeling?
You know what? I just busted into tears and shaking. I said, thank you, Lord. This is such an incredible moment of my life. And seeing that we have victory. And now we urge West Streeting now to put in the policies immediately.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What do you have to say to Labour? I mean, they want...
Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear this clearly. Thanks.
Weren't very supportive to you throughout this entire sort of journey. What do you have to say now? At least you've triumphed and you've won. And I've got the Darlington nurses, some of them behind me as well, who were exonerated last week.
Yes, I just want to say that it's important for us to recognize that as a nation, we need to, to be an example, and in leadership, especially for the members of parliament. You're there to protect and safeguard our nation. And for this should be a learning curve for all of us. Yeah.
Jennifer, it's been 2 years of hell. Your own daughter lost her job over this. You obviously couldn't do your passion of nursing for 2 years. Is it going to be back to work after this, or is it going to be, maybe a career in politics? Who knows? I mean, you're a force for change.
Well, I want to just thank God, and we take every step as it comes. But I'm glad that I'm able to go to work, and that's what is important now, and just thankful that I have no case against me, and I can go back to work. And yes, and we got the victory, and this is my career, and I love my job, and I love nursing, and that's why I did my training with University of Greenwich here, and did very well ever since, and I enjoyed every moment of my nursing career.
And lastly, what do you have to say to these women behind you? You've supported you all the way. Oh my gosh, I mean, they're such a great team.
I just want to say thank you so much to the Darlington nurses. And you know, when you won this victory, I was like, there you go, Lord. Thank you so much. And our lovely girl, thank you so much. God bless you. God bless you all. I'm so happy. Thank you so much. And this has really led to this victory. Your victory helped to lead to my victory. And I want to thank you so much for continued and painful journey that you had to go through to be sharing, you know, your own space with a man that shouldn't have been there in the first place. But now we need the right thing to be done to protect and safeguard our girls, our own female spaces. Yes.
All because we couldn't define what a woman was. Victory has prevailed, though. It's cheers all round. Common sense has prevailed over here, and it's victory today. Thank you so much, Jennifer, and all the women behind you. Peter, thank you as well for always supporting them on this journey. You've been doing great coverage for us. Back to you.
Thanks, Samara. Samara Gill there, talks reporter down in Epsom.
All right, guys. Wow. I don't know how you cannot get emotional watching that. It's been a long journey for these women, and all those nurses sticking together. It's great to see, because it's just insane that they even had to go through all of this, the expense, the time. I'm sure they received a lot of support and a lot of guidance, but just for not wanting to share a changing room with a man, just for calling a male prisoner who has harmed children Mr. This is what these women have been put through. And Jennifer was referring to, guidelines, policies being put in place, because a lot of these employers are still claiming to be waiting for guidelines from the Labour government. I believe Bridget Phillipson is the Minister for Women, and she's reluctant to say what a woman is, apparently, to share these guidelines so that these places of business, these employers can start ensuring that they protect the women's spaces and, protect women from having their job threatened for calling a man a man. And we all know that guidelines are not necessary, because the law is very clear. When it mentions woman, it's speaking about those who are female. It's as simple as that. It's a biological definition. It's a biological reality. And unfortunately, all the Supreme Court did was uncover that these places haven't been following the law. They didn't introduce a new law. They didn't rewrite anything. They just it's established that this is what the law is referring to when it talks about, women and sex-based rights. It's referring to those who are male and female. And a piece of paper doesn't allow the sexes to cross over and give men the rights that are specifically for women, for females. That's it. So there's no guidelines that are necessary, and it's just an excuse as far as I'm concerned. And we need to keep holding these places accountable. So I wish Jennifer all the best in her pursuit, at a tribunal, to make sure that they're held accountable for discriminating against her. They discriminated against her, and, she was harassed. She was attacked by this dangerous individual. There should have been extra security there to begin with, with her dealing with this person, treating this person. And she still gave this person the utmost quality of care and consideration, when clearly he didn't deserve that. But she's a professional. She's somebody who loves her work, clearly. And, she could have walked away, but she chose not to. So congratulations to Jennifer. And I'll just share some more reactions with you guys. Sharing my screen is a lot more, it's not as straightforward. It's a lot easier to just share a video. Okay, let's see. Hopefully this works.
Let's just bring this down a minute and talk about that. I love nursing. I worked all my life to get to that. and joyous scenes yesterday, but she's been through hell for 2 years with a government and a society that wouldn't defend her against the most ludicrous, obscene, revolting accusation.
Well, you know, this case, which thankfully you put the real pressure on yesterday, totally went viral overnight. You know, we had basically every politician weighing in from the right side of things, saying how great this was. People from Susan Hall to lots of reform people, etc. So it was a kind of unifying in that way. But people are saying you're right. The process was the punishment. And I think that is the case for many of these women, also the Darlington nurses who have been through hell and back just for basically gendering someone properly. I mean, I can't say it plainly enough. And I think that it's not fair that we live in this sort of like sycophantic world where it's almost, it's like a dark horror film to be outside a tribunal where we're celebrating a nurse who, as you said, you know, she worked all her life to be a nurse. There are many nurses that maybe don't want to be there. She's actually one that really does and loved the job. And yeah, I mean, the fact that a pedophile's rights were put above hers is really at the core of this case. And it was just, I genuinely was on a high yesterday, even myself, when I saw her coming out and getting justice. But unfortunately, there are many, many more Jennifers out there. And we're just thankful that she stuck up for us, because the next time you're at your workplace and you, maybe it's like with her, it was against her Christian values to gender this person as a female, then Jennifer and the precedent that she's set will actually make sure that you also have rights in your workplace. So we just can thank her and the Darlington nurses.
Completely. And Chris in Lancashire, listen this morning, just the nurse being suspended for 2 years will have been paid her full wage for 2 years, quite rightly. What a ridiculous waste of money and the loss of her skills for 2 years. And we wonder why the NHS is on its backside. Can I just say, if you're listening to the show this morning and you work in the NHS and you're in a similar position or you know a story, seriously, Samara will come to you. Great work. And I just... you know, I can sit here and I can rant and I can go, this makes no sense. You know, we live in a world where it's all about diversity and opportunity. Where are the people in that instance having a go at this vile kiddie fiddler, convicted, by the way, for using the N-word and being blatantly racist? Not a sign. It's like the people who go on about women's rights and seemingly don't give a toss about teenage girls changing in a room with a man in a dress. It's so double standard. And I just want to say to you, mate, fantastic work. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if I'm back on screen. Where was BLM UK? Where were they? She's suffered racial abuse from this PDF file, and the hospital took the side of this monster instead of a hardworking nurse who happens to be black. Where were BLM UK? Where were they? Nowhere. And it's the same old story that we always hear with these cases. It's like they make it clear, these progressives, you know, who lean very far left, they make it clear where their allegiance lies. They go on about, you know, anti-racism and all of this, but when it comes to a black woman against a white man who identifies as trans, we know whose side they're going to pick. It's as clear as day. And yeah, so they really need to be held accountable. And she did say she suffered financially, although when you get suspended, they were pointing out there that you get your full pay. But she said when it initially happened, her overtime was cancelled. She couldn't do overtime. And, you know, nurses do heavily rely on what they get paid cumulatively with the overtime. So not being able to do her overtime, usual overtime and all of that, it did affect her financially. And yes, it is a waste of money for the NHS to suspend a hardworking nurse for misgendering. Absolutely ridiculous. And we wonder why, you know, there's such a strain on the system and it's not as effective as we would like when it comes to the resources available to people who pay into it. This is what they're wasting money on. And of course, you know, with her tribunal case in April, I really hope she's heavily compensated for this. No amount of money is going to make up for what she's been put through though, but yeah, I hope she's compensated well for this because she deserves it. She definitely has suffered as a result of this, all because of somebody. This is a Melle PDF file. And what I want to ask is, what does a man have to do, one of these men, what do they have to do for them to finally not have everybody tiptoe around them and bend over backwards to appease them? Even harming a child isn't enough to misgender them and, call them what they are. There's nothing they can do where people will not be defending them and scolding people for not using the pronouns they want you to use. What do these criminals have to do? These male criminals who identify as a woman, what do they have to do for them to finally, where the courts don't honor their wishes of being put in a women's prison? They've put predators in women's prisons. Those who have harmed children, those who have harmed women, they put them in the prison with women. There's not a crime that they can commit where they're not still going to be appeased, where they're not going to be treated how they deserve to be treated. Not having everybody tiptoe around them to honor their pronouns. I just don't get it. At what point do they not get, is it considered appropriate for them not to receive special privileges? At what point are the courts, those in authority going to say, you don't deserve this? You basically have committed this crime, and you don't deserve everybody tiptoeing around you, worrying about your feelings. You don't deserve, women to be sacrificed on your behalf, for the feelings and safety of women to be sacrificed, just to appease you. You don't deserve that. At what point are they going to acknowledge that? Doesn't seem like there's anything these men can do where, they have these privileges withdrawn from them. It's absolutely insane. So we are women and we hear your roar. I'm just so glad that women in the UK are definitely seem to be winning right now. The law is on their side, and that's reflected in the results of these recent cases. Sandy Peggy was there supporting Jennifer. It's so wonderful to see. Yep, it's so sad. The broken system encourages people to live a fantasy that hurts other people. Frustrating. Absolutely, Jess, absolutely. And this is what we've been seeing play out for years now. For years, this has been playing out. And it's like, how much do these women have to suffer? How much do we have to have taken from us before they decide enough is enough? But at least the Supreme Court finally were able to confirm what a woman is. Our Supreme Court here in the US, we're still waiting. I can't believe we had lawyers on the side of the trans athletes in a recent Supreme Court case. They refused to define male and female in court, in a case that is based on sex discrimination, in a case where they seek to reestablish the true meaning of Title IX. The lawyers refused to say what a woman is. Like, how pathetic. And this is like, we think that we're like, ahead of the rest of the world. But this is where we're at. In the court, in the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, we had lawyers in a case that is where sex discrimination is being looked into. They refuse to say what a woman is. Because, God forbid they offend the cult. That's what it comes down to. So we're still waiting here in the US to see if our Supreme Court can define what a woman is. I'm confident that it will go well because it is a majority conservative Supreme Court. So there shouldn't be any problems. And even the lawyer, defending the trans athletes can't even come up with a definition. So it's like, what are we even doing here? They've made a mockery of our courts. They've made a mockery, of our legislation. What a genuinely nice lady. Yes, she really comes across as a lovely woman, and she does come across as somebody who really loves her job. She really does come across that way. Of all the people to not be able to do the job that they love, you know, for 2 years now. For her to be the one who ended up in that situation, it's just such an injustice. It really is. So I'm very happy for Jennifer, the Darlington nurses, and Sandy Peggy. We wait for the appeal. Sandy Peggy, she's going to follow it through because there were some aspects of her ruling that I don't even know, you know, why the judge or the whatever they're called in the tribunal, why they decided that the onus is on the woman to put in a complaint if she's uncomfortable, instead of just telling these employers to follow the law. It's as simple as that. All they need to do is encourage these employers to follow the law. Every place of work should have designated areas specifically for females and for men as well. That's it. Of course, they refused because they knew it would sink them. Haha. Yeah, exactly. And this is why we're where we're at now, because they refuse to come out and say what a woman is because they know they have no leg to stand on. And they will go around every other way than just being honest about the definition. So yeah, I don't hold out. You know, I'm not worried about the decision at all, because you can't even in a you know, Supreme Court, you can't even be clear on definitions. One lawyer said that there is no definition. So what's the English language then? You know, why do we even have the English language if our words have no definition? Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. I wanted to just check in with you with the good news. I'm a bit behind on some of these stories. Listening to Miss Melle express her happiness and gratitude and giving thanks to the nurses made me emotional. Very emotional watching that. And just this story in general, following this story. Yeah. This is why sometimes I like shy away from doing lives because I watch something like that and I'm like, oh, you know, I could definitely cry watching that. It's just so happy for her, but also just to think about what they went through. So unnecessary that they will put through that. Follow the science, XX and XY exist and nothing else found so far. Exactly. So yeah, I hope everybody has a lovely day today. It's 12:28 here. And yeah, just I'll try and keep on top of these stories. I'm going to try and do some more lives and check in with you guys because I think it's a lot easier if there are no technical issues. So before I go, just see if there's any other comments from you guys. Having a nurse like Miss Melle is the dream. Having a hospital roommate like Mr. Nonce is a nightmare. Yes, I would have to agree. So it's about time they start protecting these women, protect these female nurses, give them their own, you know, protect their spaces. Let them have their own changing room. They shouldn't have to fight for years, you know, taking their employer to court so they can get dressed for work in peace without a man being present. They shouldn't have to defend themselves in court to be reinstated to their job because they called a man a man. I'm not even going to call it misgendering anymore. It's ridiculous. They simply called a man a man. Thank you for the update. It makes me happy to see her doing well. Yes, exactly. I mean, I don't know how I would have coped if I was in her position. I really don't know how I would have coped. You've been demonized. Your career has been threatened. Probably wondering, you know, am I going to be able to get another job? You know, this sort of thing where they accuse you of offending people from certain communities. How's that going to look? You know, all of that must have gone through her head. So I wish Jennifer all the best for April. I'm going to be following that closely and I'll keep you guys posted. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and God willing, I will see you in the next video.